Welcome everybody to Write Better Together, it's not an afterthought, it's John and Emily talk about something that's happening on the internet. Hey, look everybody, it's Emily Brooks.
Hello, John Myers. But it's not just the two of us, right? Because we have Brian Baker with us.
Where'd he come from?
Hello.
Hi. For our listeners, will you tell us about yourself and what you're working on?
Yeah, sure. So I am a freelance editor. That's kind of my day job, I guess. But I also have a YouTube channel where I talk about fountain pens and fancy paper and all that kind of stuff. And so yeah, I'm growing that and an Etsy store where I sell notebooks that I make and just a lot of stuff that I'm constantly doing. So
that must be why you're here, because you're our resident fountain pen expert. Although
yes.
You're not a resident, you're in Utah, aren't you? You're in Utah, correct?
Yes, I am in Utah.
Cool.
And I'm not an expert.
Yes, you are.
Well, all of those things that he just mentioned, we're going to link in the show notes. So if you're interested in the Etsy store or YouTube channel or getting some editing services, we'll link all of that down there so you can get connected.
Thanks.
This is the show where people come on and say they're not what we say they are. So I call you an expert. No, I'm not. We call Bob Sines a celebrity. He's like, no, I'm not.
He's personally offended by that.
Correct. Alrighty. Why do we have a fountain pen denier expert here? Why is he here?
Because Wes Anderson just did a commercial for a fountain pen company. And I'm not going to try to say it. Somebody else say it.
Montblanc. That's my best guess.
Ooh.
Perfect. It sounds right to me.
Montblanc.
Perfect.
So we thought we would watch it, talk about fountain pens, talk about Wes Anderson, because we've mentioned Wes Anderson multiple times on the podcast.
And then we're going to ask, and so you people at home can play along, is this a story?
Yes, that is the question.
All right, here we go.
We stand at the summit of Mont Blanc, the White Mountain, highest peak in the Alpine Arch, an inspiration for the first Mont Blanc fountain pen, designed over 100 years ago for the adventurous traveler who wants to leave his mark on the world, or her mark.
Originally, some of them they called it a safety pen, which really means it has a cap so you don't get ink on your pocket.
All right, would you like to say something? Is that true, Brian?
Is what true?
About the cap? Putting the cap on the pen?
Yeah. Every Mont Blanc pen
it makes
has
sense.
one of those. I don't know if you can see that.
We need a mountain expert. Oh yeah, wow. We need a mountain expert. Is that a real mountain? Is Mont Blanc a real mountain?
I assume so. I assume what they're saying is true. I guess I haven't looked it up.
You're assuming this fictional story is true.
That's a great point. Is that actual mountain? Because I was sitting here thinking, why are they on a mountain?
I'm going to go with it's true.
Yeah, we'll believe everything that Wes Anderson says.
Sure.
It's probably an invention from back before pens had caps on them.
Actually, it was designed with a retractable nib, which sealed the ink in reserve like a cork.
Ah, that clarifies.
The Mont Blanc flag. I bought it.
Let's go inside. The temperature has dropped 10 degrees in the last 15 minutes.
Celsius or centigrade?
What? They're the same. The Mont Blanc Observatory High Mountain Library and Writing Room, headquarters of Inspire Writing, which is our other campaign slogan.
Emily, before Brian speaks, tell us what a retractable nib is.
What? Is that this?
I can only see videos. I can't see what you're holding up, but
Oh.
I can tell you if you want.
Yes, please do.
So you know what a retractable pen is, right? Like a G2, just a normal like ballpoint. It goes inside, right? So you can have the same thing on a fountain pen. Sometimes you have ones that just kind of click close. But the safety pen they're talking about, that was a little more old school because back in the day, fountain pens were not as reliable as they are now. So they could spill and get ink everywhere or whatever. So basically, it was this thing where you could like twist it somehow, and the nib or the tip would go down into the pen, and then you would put the cap on it. So that you would spill the ink everywhere as you're climbing a mountain or whatever. So that's what they're talking about with a safety pen. I have seen them. I've never like owned one, but they're not very common, but they're still made.
Interesting.
I've learned so much already.
I know. We're like just starting.
This space represents the spirit of Montblanc as we see it. Montblanc, as you know, produces excellent pens and also watches.
And leather.
Yes. Here you can see is the famous little snowcap symbol on the top of it. This one's called the Meisterstück, this pen, which means masterpiece.
And this article is an example of the very good handcrafted leather goods which Montblanc makes.
Some more pens? This is not a Montblanc. The hell is this?
Yes, it is.
Nothing
This
inside.
is actually the new special edition Montblanc fountain pen, which will...
Sorry. Went a little ahead of myself there. I got into it. John Myers, do you want to talk about the aesthetic of Wes Anderson? Because that's all I'm thinking about right now.
No, I mean, yeah, I will. But I want to talk about this new pen.
Okay.
So I love the line, "That's not a Montblanc." Yes, it is. Because I've just invented it, or I've just designed it. But so yes, this is, I don't want to use the word typical. This is standard. This is symmetrical. We got 3 people on the screen. The feature speaker is in the middle. We've got a person on each side. There's equidistant in the mise en scène. There's equidistant amount of space of the background on both of them, or on both sides of Wes Anderson. And so anyone familiar with Wes Anderson recognizes that this is a Wes Anderson creation.
Have you seen the things where people are doing videos of like the day in the life videos, but they're doing it in the style of Wes Anderson? Because I just thought for the first time, like, we should do that for Write Better Together.
So do you remember when that was a TikTok trend?
Yeah. I mean, we're way behind.
No, listen to this. And so so whenever that was, right before, like when the trailer came out for Asteroid City, my students make a creative element every Thursday, and so I had them. They could make whatever creative element they wanted based on whatever text that they were reading, but they had to make it in the style of Wes Anderson. And that was like at the beginning of that semester, right?
Oh, that's
By the
amazing.
end of that semester, it was a TikTok trend, and I was like, "Look what y'all started!" and so they were ahead of the curve. And so there's some great ones. Some of them did videos because I had film students in my class. Some of them did drawings, but everyone got it too.
That is awesome.
They used the proper color schemes, and it was wonderful. So yeah, we should do that. We should be a year behind on that.
Yeah, I love that so much.
All
right, here we go. Green pen
will come out next year, which I designed myself.
Oh, well done.
Thank you. You like it?
I prefer the original, the Meisterstück. It's the classic.
Well, I prefer this one, which I designed myself.
What's your one called, your model?
It's called the Schreiberling, which means the scribbler. Scribbler. Let's make our way up to the writing room, shall we?
Yes.
Here you can see is this room, furnished with the special Montblanc writing desk and very good paper.
That was 30 seconds.
Okay. Let's let Brian talk for a minute. Go ahead and say something, Brian.
Yeah, I think it's just funny how like there's like this mini debate about the pen. He's like, well, I like mine better because I designed it or whatever. I don't know a ton about this, but I do know that Montblanc periodically does have special edition pens that come out that look very different from kind of their typical thing. So it's definitely not the first time they've done this, but it is kind of funny that they're like, what the heck is that? Like, so yeah, this, by the way, it's a Meisterstück or whatever, but I did not buy it. I just have to make that clear. I did not spend like $700 on this pen. I have a brother-in-law who runs an eBay store, so he's always going to thrift stores and yard sales and all these different things to find things to flip on eBay. And he found like a bag of fountain pens and bought it for like $10 or something. And so one of the pens in there was this one, and he decided to give it to me. So I think he in total he spent 18 cents on this, and he just gave it to me for free. So it's seen better days for sure. Like the clip is all sprung out and stuff, but I mean, it's still a Montblanc, you know? So kind of fun to have it.
So that's interesting, because in some of the comments under this video, there's a debate: who's going to spend $1,100 for a pen? And there's people like mine. I spent $1,100 on mine. So if yours was $700, are the $1,100 ones? Is that because they're vintage and they've lasted this long, and so they're worth more? Like, does that happen?
No, I actually don't know how much this one costs, but I think it's pretty common for them just to be like 500 and up. So, and there are pen collectors that will spend a lot of money. I actually get a lot of pen stuff for free. There was a pen I used to have. I won it in a giveaway, an Instagram giveaway. It was a $2,000 pen made out of solid silver. And then the nib was made out of gold. I think all Montblanc nibs are made out of gold, so that's part of the price point. But
wow. And so do they depreciate like a car, or do they increase in value like a wine?
That's a good question. So it really depends on the pen itself. Like a special edition pen, like the Wes Anderson pen, if that pen is popular, if it sells out and they stop making them, then it could appreciate in value. Typically, I think pens depreciate, but there are certain ones. Like I have a pen. It's like a $30 pen, not Montblanc or anything. It's a $30 pen, but it was a limited edition from a few years ago. I could probably sell it on eBay for $150.
Wow.
Just because of the color.
Wow.
But that's the exception to the rule, though.
Cool.
So yeah.
This is the first time I'm hearing that people pay that much for pens. Is it because of the brand, or is it like, I'm going to have this pen for the rest of my life and I won't ever need another pen?
Yeah, it could be some of both. With Montblanc, it's definitely a brand thing. Like they're kind of the Rolex of
I mean, you said they have gold, like
yeah, it's very prestigious. And I think some people push back against that and kind of say that Montblanc is overhyped. But it's very prestigious. So I think that you might be paying up a little bit just for the name. But fountain pens in general, they are meant to last. You don't buy one to just throw away when it runs out of ink or whatever, typically. So so typically it's something that you buy and then you don't need to buy again, unless you are like me and you start collecting them, which there are a lot of people like that. So
comparing it to like Rolex or something is good. Like that helps me put that together of the appeal for sure.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
And more leather goods.
And ink.
And hot chocolate and pretzels.
What are you going to write?
I think I'll write a letter to my mother.
Perfect. How about you?
I'll do my daily journal entry.
Fantastic.
I'll use my Meisterstück. And yourself?
I thought I might try my hand at writing a historical novel set during the times of feudalism.
Okay.
Wow. What's it about?
I don't really know yet. I only thought up the first sentence.
Oh, may I?
Yes.
It was a week before the solstice when little Helmut finally realized he was being hunted by a polar bear.
Does that sound... Am I stealing that from the start of some other book?
I don't know.
Me either.
I'm sure.
Am I missing a reference?
I don't know. Are we?
So Avery or my wife, she tried looking up that book just before we got into this, and she couldn't find anything. So I don't know. I feel like it's a nod to something.
It's gotta be.
So Have you all seen Henry Sugar and all 4 of those? The things are on Netflix now. So there's 4 shorts. The longest one is 36 minutes.
Oh, I saw one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that the pattern of that sentence, but not that sentence. People are just going to rail on us that we don't know this. I think the pattern of that sentence is like the first line of when Roald Dahl goes and sits down in the little chair and all. I think because he sits down to write and he writes longhand in like a legal pad or something.
Okay, so it's kind of like an homage to that.
It's like a nod to the thing that he has released on Netflix. I think
that makes sense.
But I don't think it's the exact line.
Yeah.
So I think Avery was correct.
Okay.
Interesting.
But I could also be wrong.
maybe Avery was thrown off the scent a little bit by this like novel based on feudalism or whatever.
Maybe. Because it doesn't sound anything like that.
Sound like Netflix.
Yeah. All right, last one.
In the morning, by the way, we'll all 3 ski back down to base camp after breakfast.
Weather permitting.
All together. But for now, let's write. Montblanc, inspire writing. It's our slogan.
Also, make your mark. There's 2 slogans.
Leave your mark.
Yes. Thank you. So now, let's write.
There's 2 slogans. Sounds like what we do. We can't think up of a title. We wind up with 2 titles. Before we let Brian talk, I want to honest answer. Emily, and then I'll go, and then Brian will say the answer. Everyone be 100% honest. What's the most you would pay for a pen?
After this conversation, like if I was getting a pen that I was like, I can continually like renew this and use this for a long time, and it's real fancy and it just feels nice, maybe like 100. Not today, like in the future. Not with my current financial situation.
After you get paid next week.
It would probably have to be like a gift. Like I don't know if I would spend it on myself, but I would accept a gift.
I didn't say that. No. You have to pull the dollar, you have to pull the green bills out of your pocket and hand them to the cashier.
All right, I would say then probably closer to 50, but 50 to 100, somewhere around there.
I like. Why take it as a gift? $100. Well, so no, that's a $500 pen. I'm not taking that. I'm going to refuse that. So I don't know what my answer is. I'm glad I went second. I don't know, man.
I will say I've only spent like $5 on a pen. Like I've never spent that, maybe $10 on a pen.
I've spent $20 on a pen because I should have had it ready for this because it has, so in a movie theater you can use them because there's a little light on the end of them, and so you can take notes. Like if you're a movie critic, you can take notes and it doesn't bother anyone, like turning your phone on, because it just shines a light on your notepad.
Oh, and, that's nice.
That's very cool.
But so if this Wes Anderson pen, I think it was like invented by astronauts. Everything's invented by astronauts, or by Jerry Seinfeld on the Unfrosted movie. So I think, gosh, well, I know I'd spend 20. I think I would. Gosh, like I want this Wes Anderson pen. What if it's $1,000? I'm not going to spend that. Gosh, I don't know.
I've never wanted to spend money on a pen, but now, after seeing that ad, I do. How advertising works.
Yeah, so, well, that's a good point, because it's working on us.
Yeah, I know.
Makes me want to go right.
What other commercial has worked this well on us? Oh, gosh. Okay, so I will say 101, Bob. I will outbid you by $1.
I should have said $1 because then I could have won The Price is Right. Oh man.
All right, Brian, that's up.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm with you, Emily. I think 50 to 100, that's pretty good. Typically I spend a lot less than that, but if there was a pen that I was like, yes, this is the pen, it would probably be like 50 to 100. There is a pen that I've had my eyes on for a long time that's 200, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I ever get that one or not. But
yeah.
Do you like watch? Do you watch eBay for it to see if it like?
A little bit. I probably should consider secondhand more often than I do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually
Wow. All right. So here's the other thing I know about pens. They're not fountain pens. So you know the Bic pen where you can see the ink inside.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just this clear tube, and you can see the ink. And as you use the pen, you watch the ink goes down. So if you're ever in a room with Jerry Seinfeld and you're like, "Can I borrow a pen?" Those are the pens that he uses, with the clear ones. He doesn't use the ones with the barrel you can't see, and he will not give you his 39-cent pen or his 69-cent pen. He's never lost one nor loaned one out because he enjoys watching the ink go down until it's empty, and then he saves the empty ones. And
But
so
you can refill them.
Of the disposable ones?
The ones I have are refillable. They're just like the Bic black see-through ones.
Yeah, so I didn't know you could refill those, but yeah, so he says there's no greater satisfaction of using that whole tube of ink, and then it gets down, and then he has a whole a box or a drawer full of all of the empty ones, because that shows that he's accomplished.
Wow.
Look at everything I've written, because he writes everything longhand.
Wow.
All his jokes and everything. So that's that's the extent of my pen knowledge. So Brian, we'll let you say a little bit more about pens, but respond to that. Like, respond to, is there a satisfaction of using a whole pen, or a whole inkwell or a whole ink cartridge for a fountain pen? Like, what's that feeling like?
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I feel particularly satisfied when I run out of ink, or if I'm just a little bit annoyed, because it's always at an inconvenient time. But I can say that it is nice kind of having your choice of pen, and like, this is my pen, this fits who I am, and this is what I write with, and kind of being a little protective of it, like you were talking about. There's something satisfying to that.
So it's an extension of your personality.
It definitely can be, yeah.
Well, then, so Brian, do you write? Because I know you write a lot of poetry, obviously. Do you do a lot of that by hand?
Yeah, in fact, this year I'm trying to be exclusively analog with my creative writing, just as an experiment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm like, all the greats, all the classic writers, none of them had a computer or even a typewriter. They needed a pen and paper. That's it. So I'm like, if it's good enough for them, it should be good enough for me, right? So I'm trying it, and it's interesting.
Yeah, we should do like.
What's that?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, it's challenging for sure to write by hand, because it's so slow, and life is busy. I don't get enough time anyway to write much. But it's also really interesting. I feel like I'm more creative. Like, it's easier to, I don't know, when I write something on the computer, it feels a little more finished and harder to revise. And when it's with pen and paper, I feel like I can deconstruct it a little bit more and come up with something better the next time. Because you have to write it out again. You have to write the entire draft out again instead of just nitpicking little parts of it. So it's kind of nice.
Wow.
But
I would love to know if our listeners do that. Like, I'm sure that there's not many people who do that, but I'd be interested in if any of our listeners. So let us know, listeners, if that's something you like to do or want to try. Because now I'm inspired to try. I want to get a good $50 pen.
When we both gave each other that when we both gave each other that 5-minute challenge, we like.
Oh yeah, that was nice.
We didn't say we had to use a pen or a computer, but we both went and used a pen.
We did, yeah.
Without the other person knowing that.
Yeah, in a previous episode when we wrote log lines on the spot.
Nice.
So that's interesting.
That's great.
In a class, in a creative writing class, I'd say it's half and half, right? So the professor's like, okay, you got 20 minutes to write something inspired by Toni Morrison or something, right? Like in reading as a writer or whatever. Whatever. There were always people that would never finish in the 20 minutes. And then, but then it was probably half and half though. All ages, all whatever. Of some people would do it on a legal pad or on paper, and other people would do it on a computer.
Yeah.
All right. Is this a story, folks?
No. Did I answer too quickly? No. I don't think it is, because there wasn't really like a progression. Like there were characters, there was a setting. We even got a little bit of maybe backstory. But we didn't get a I didn't see a plot there, unless I'm missing something. Did you all see a plot?
I'm waiting for Brian's answer.
Yeah, so for me, I agree with you, Emily. I didn't really see much in terms of like a traditional narrative structure to this. I think because I know a little bit about Montblanc in general, I feel like in the broader context of the brand, there might be a narrative that's happening, or at least a bigger statement that's being made. Because for me, I don't know. This feels so different. This commercial feels so different from the vibe I usually see from Montblanc. And I don't really follow the brand very closely. It's not something that I'm super interested in. I'm glad I have one. It's cool, but what I have seen, the only other advertisement I've seen from Montblanc is a poster of Hugh Jackman in a tuxedo with a Meisterstück or whatever. And it's kind of like that, like dark, moody vibe, like very similar to the advertisements you see for like high-end perfumes and colognes and different things like that. It feels very upscale, very highbrow. And I mean, Wes Anderson's kind of artsy and stuff. Like there's maybe some highbrowness there a little bit, but I feel like there was, I don't know, more self-awareness, more like almost parody a little bit, and more lightheartedness. And so I feel like maybe as a brand, there's kind of a narrative arc of like we're shifting, we're trying to change direction slightly, maybe reach an audience we haven't reached before, or something like that. So
interesting. So it's interesting that you said that, because to me it seemed equal parts, as a novice pen person. It seemed equal parts Wes Anderson and equal part Montblanc, and so it wasn't just like a Wes Anderson. I'll call it a narrative. I won't call it a story, and then I'll give you my opinion whether it's a story or not. And then they threw in a pen. It seemed centered around the company and the original pen and the new pen. It seemed more centered around the company than it did the new pen. Really, the new pen was almost in that narrative was almost an afterthought. And like that first time I watched it, I didn't think, oh, this is going to announce a new pen. I thought this was going to be a Wes Anderson commercial, like the other Wes Anderson commercials that I've seen. So I will agree that it's not a story. However, it occurred to me during this conversation, we all teach, we've all taught literature, right? And so y'all are throwing around these terms that we teach our literature students of theme and setting and character, right? I teach my students that there are 6 important elements. Some people will stretch that to 10. I can make the case that those other 4 fall into one of the other 6, and so that's why I scoff at the people who say there are 10. But it's those things that we were just saying, right? But on the podcast, we don't say those are. When we talk about story, we say protagonist, antagonist, goal, conflict. And then I throw in the ticking time bomb, right? And so there's there has to be an antagonist, a protagonist, a goal, and an obstacle, and that's a story. But we don't teach our literature students that. So anyway, I would say this is not a story because I'd say there's a protagonist, but the only way it's a story is if it's, hey, look at, is if it's someone whose goal, if it's Wes Anderson's goal to convince the other 2 guys, hey, you need to take this pen, buy this pen, and then the antagonist would be Rupert Friend saying, no, we have to be traditionalists, blah 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 blah, and
right.
And that really doesn't happen. We don't see that. We hear references to it, but we don't see that.
Yeah.
And he doesn't state that as his goal. Like, it's not his stated goal. He's admiring all pens, really. He's admiring the company.
Yeah, I think story has to have change. Now, I agree with Brian that there's a reference to change. Like in the broader story, when they're talking, like the story that they're actually sharing about Montblanc has change. But the characters that we see, there is no change.
Yeah.
All right. Tell us what the closing thought, Brian. Tell us about traditionalists versus hipsters jumping on the fountain pen bandwagon. What's going to happen when this pen comes out?
Oh man, that's a good question.
I know.
I know there will be a camp of people that are like, who cares about Montblanc at all? Because I don't know, like it's this very prestigious brand, and a lot of people are like, we don't need this, it's overhyped, whatever. I think that collectors will be all over this pen. I think that they will be very interested. So I think that there will be a lot of serious enthusiasts who snatch it right up. I don't know if there will be a lot of pushback necessarily, or people who are too purist to really appreciate something new from Montblanc. But I don't know. I'm not a Montblanc snob, so I can't really speak for that category of people, I guess.
It could be a gateway pen into like someone who's never bought one before, but they love Wes Anderson, and now they become a subscriber to your channel.
That's a pretty expensive gateway pen, but yeah, if it works for people, then yeah.
That's a good point.
One thing I as we were talking, there's one other thing that really struck me about this video or this advertisement. Usually when somebody's advertising a product, they want to display it. They want to show you the details. Like if you think of a car commercial, like you get to see the interior, you get to see the exterior, you get to see it in action. But all we see is like, here's a pen, like, and that's all you see. And so I thought it was really interesting that you have this pen commercial that doesn't actually really show you the pens. Like you just see them from a distance. I thought that was very interesting. I wonder if that's Montblanc just kind of relying on their reputation. Like people already know what we do. We can talk about it without really showing it. I don't know. That was just something that I thought was interesting.
That's a great
point. That is a great point. Yeah, I definitely think that's gotta be a reputation thing.
All right.
Anything else?
Brian?
Thank you so much.
Yeah, glad to be here. It was fun.